Like the same example I given you, shouting. The comparison of the power and the torque of the Jimny, your question will be, how it make a difference? Maybe power is enough, maybe torque is enough, there may be some other reasons. Then there's a proper shaft, and probably they will be listening like that. I'm so powerful. Hello dosto, welcome back to Performancec Auto. Currently you are watching Jimny Cookbook series where we talk about everything about Jimny. So today you are seeing me on a different setup altogether, right? So most of the time you see me outside, but the problem is there's a heavy rain going on and I tried a few times actually to record the video outside, but I was not able to. So I thought let's record this video from my home. So today's topic is going to be very, very interesting because this is everybody's concern, almost everybody's concern. So many people who bought this vehicle sometimes complained about the power of this vehicle and sometimes they say the torque is not enough. But at the same time, the other bunch of people won't complain about anything about the power. And some people I saw where they say sometimes we feel the power is enough and sometimes we feel the power is not enough. We will try to decode where we try to understand whether this vehicle is having some power issues or it's basically something else. So in today's video, we will try to understand what is the actual issue, whether this is an issue with the power, whether this is an issue with torque, or whether this is an issue with the torque converter, or is it an issue with the gearbox, or maybe something else. Maybe it is possible. Maybe these are not the main reasons. Maybe power is enough. Maybe torque is enough. Maybe torque converter is good. Maybe gearbox is good. But still, there may be some other reasons. So let's try to get the answer of these questions. So I think whenever we talk about the power of the vehicle, the first thing actually comes in the mind is the engine of the vehicle. And that is a reason most of the time people say, no, this is not a powerful engine. Maybe they are absolutely right, but this is not always the case. Maybe it is not just a power, maybe something else. As we are trying to understand what are those things, if at all those are actually. Let's try to understand the comparison of the power and the torque of the Jimny with some other popular vehicle which are in the 4x4 segment. So many people having the complaints, okay, this particular vehicle having more power, this particular vehicle having less power. They are probably right. But let's try to understand the same thing from these specifications. If you see in this table, we have different popular vehicles and all these vehicles are 4x4 vehicle and very popular in their own segment. So we have few columns here: the engine capacity, the maximum power of the vehicle, the maximum torque of the vehicle, and the curve weight of the vehicle. And most of you already know about the curve weight and the gross weight. The curve weight is that which is basically the vehicle's weight actually. It won't count actually any loaded capacity, right? And the gross weight is the curve weight plus the loading capacity of the vehicle. So here we are talking about the curve weight. And these are the curve weights given actually. And most of the vehicle are very heavy as compared to Jimny. The next column is the power per ton. That shows Jimny is having actually 1200 kg of weight and 1 ton is 1000 kg, and at 1000 kg that much of maximum power actually Jimny delivers, and this is a maximum torque delivered by Jimny per 1000 kg. And likewise we have other figures here. So before we actually understand this particular table, so we need to understand first few color codes given in this particular table. When you see the blue text here, this is an approximate weight but not the confirmed weight. All the red figures here shows the lesser power than Jimny, and all the green text actually shows here more torque than Jimny per 1000 kg or per ton of the vehicle. So these figures shows Jimny is not having any power crunch. So Jimny is having very decent power. This is not very torquey, and Suzuki already know about that. And they know everything about it, right? They know the torque is less. But how actually they mitigate this torque issue? The torque issue is actually mitigated by few measures they have taken, and we are going to talk about those measures actually later in this particular video. Hopefully this particular table actually gave you enough information. It is not a power crunch, but it is a torque crunch with Jimny as respect to other vehicles, right? So let's move to the another comparison. So my friends, the next comparison is going to be very, very interesting, I'm telling you. But this comparison is going to be one of its old sibling. Can you guess that vehicle? I think you can easily guess that, right? And that vehicle is actually the Vitara Brezza. We really need to compare that Vitara Brezza here. And there is a reason for that, because so many people actually in the market appreciate Brezza and Brezza's stance, how basically it is designed. Because Brezza and Jimny having the same engine. Well, somebody watching this video probably think, why I'm comparing it with Brezza? The reason is if we compare these two vehicles, we come to know many other facts actually, which is very useful to understand many other secrets. So let's understand that. So in this table, you can see three vehicles from Suzuki. First two vehicles having the same engine, but new Brezza 2022 is having little different engine, which is a K15C engine. So we are not going to discuss this actually much in this particular video. I just kept that in the list to give you a glimpse of that this engine is little different, because you know the Vitara Brezza is a very proven vehicle and many people like this vehicle because this is a very rugged vehicle and having a very good ground clearance. If somebody already driven the old Brezza, so did you feel the power, the torque issue in that Brezza having the same engine? I don't think so. Many people will come forward and say no, there was a lot of issues, right? And this is worth discussing actually. So let's go and discuss it. Now we have only two vehicles in the list having the same engine capacity in both the vehicles. If you see here, there's a slight change in power and slight change in torque. However, the weight of these two vehicles are also very comparable. Jimny is just 1200 kgs and Brezza is 1130 kgs. You can just assume there are 70 kg of person is sitting here in extra. Otherwise, there is no huge difference in the weight as well. But still, these two vehicles actually performs very differently. And there are some reasons for that. Even though they put this particular engine where this Jimny is lacking. So let's understand that. Let's go back to the chart again. You can see in this particular table, there is a one difference. Here I added one more column. Transmission type. In transmission, the 4-speed 80, 4-speed 80, these are blue. The meaning of the blue is these are same 4-speed torque converters. There is no difference between the torque converters in Brezza and Jimny. These are exactly same transmission box. Well, you already have seen the particular chart actually, and there is no huge difference between these two vehicles, right? So where these vehicles are different in case of 80, that we will discuss later. But now, so let's understand what is the difference between the empty variants first. In empty, you can see both are red. The meaning of the red is they're actually 5-speed manual gearboxes, but these two gearboxes are different gearboxes. These are not same. Main difference is of the gear ratio. In Brezza, the gear ratio is bit lower. In Jimny, the gear ratio is a higher side. That is a main difference between these two vehicles, which actually makes a difference here. So what I'm trying to say is, wherever Jimny was falling behind in torque from Brezza, that actually compensated by this high ratio gearbox actually. This is the first point where basically it compensates. But if it is so, then you will say, in that case, Jimny should be more punchy than Brezza, right? Here's a catch, let me tell you. So maybe one of the possible reason is Jimny is basically having very different shape. It's a highly mounted car, have the bigger tire and also have a boxy shape, and it's a leather frame chassis, and Brezza is basically a hatchback, which is a monocoque. There are definitely differences. In that case, we can't compare these two vehicles at all. We can say maybe this is one of the reasons, but is this the main reason? I don't think so. There's some other differences, right? So let's know those reasons. Before telling you that reason, I want to take one example actually. And that example probably a little weird, but definitely give an insight how basically these two vehicles are different. So let's take an example. Suppose you shout at home. Oh, not you. Suppose I shout at home and I shouted very loudly. When I shout very loudly at my home, then who is going to listen me first? Definitely the people basically who are actually in the room going to listen me first. And people in the next room definitely hear me, but probably not at that intensity, right? And people at the last corner of the house, they also hear you, but not that loudly, right? But what about your neighbors? So neighbor definitely listen, and probably they will be listening like that, right? Oh, this guy is shouting. But what about the next neighbor, the next neighbor? Probably they will see someone is shouting somewhere, right? But what about the third, fourth and fifth neighbor in the same street? Maybe they hardly hear anything unless and until they put an amplifier there, right? So what I'm trying to say is the people at the farthest actually hardly hear your shout, and the people who are the closest actually hear your shout very loudly, very clearly, and what you're saying, right? And this actually happens, right? So be very careful. I mean, I should be very careful, right? So so what I'm trying to say here is, this is exactly overall drivetrain actually works in case of Jimny. But that is not a case with Brezza. Let me tell you how. What exactly you do? The first thing when you basically want to use the vehicle, so definitely you ignite that, right? You press the push button, you actually crank the vehicle, right? Once you crank the vehicle, the meaning of the cranking of the vehicle, that means you are starting the engine. The engine is started. When the engine is started, then there is a combustion. The combustion is basically in action. So there are 4 pistons in this particular case which go up and down and actually create a mechanical energy, right? So in combustion, there are lots of things happen, right? So when the pistons are moving up and down, they actually move the crankshaft. In case of AT, it actually binds with torque converter and then to gearbox. And if it is manual, then it directly connects to your gearbox. In between, definitely you have the clutch plates, right? And then that your gearbox actually connect with the drive shaft, and that drive shaft actually connects with the transfer case, and from the transfer case to your rear differential there is a propeller shaft which is connected, which actually again the transfer the power to rear differential, and from the rear differential actually it transfer the equal power, equal torque to both the wheels actually behind. But what happens in case of Brezza? In case of Brezza, once basically your engine is started and the power is basically getting generated, that actually transfer to the crankshaft, from the crankshaft to your torque converter and gearbox, or in case of manual through clutch plate to the gearbox and then to the wheels directly, because Brezza is a front wheel drive. Front wheel drive means the tires are very near with the gearbox, where with the help of axles it transfers the torque to the wheels. But what happens in case of Jimny? How many components there in between? See, after this gearbox, there is a drive shaft and there is a transfer case, then there is a propeller shaft, then there is a differential, then basically it transfers the torque to the rear wheel drive, because Jimny is a full-time rear wheel drive and Brezza is a full-time front wheel drive. That is a main difference. But now your question will be, how it make a difference? Yes, it makes a difference. Like the same example I given you, shouting. When there are many mechanical parts in between, there are two things will happen. One is a mechanical delay from front to rear. And second thing which basically we are losing here is, due to lots of parts in between, lot of gears in between. See, transfer case also basically have some gears. Your differential also have some gears. And in between, there is a drive shaft, there is a propeller shaft. There are two different shafts basically which are working in sync with that. And those actually, when you drive the vehicle, those actually heats up. When it heats up, it actually loses some energy. When it loses some energy, that means whatever the power basically you are transferring from front to rear, somewhere basically some energy is getting lost. I'm not saying that energy is not getting lost in case of front wheel drive. That is happening there as well. But that is very less. In case of rear wheel drive, that is a usual case. And that happens with every rear wheel drive vehicle. That is not just case with Jimny. So now you say, no, other vehicles which are rear wheel drive are very powerful. Jimny is not. So maybe the answer for this particular question is other vehicles basically having more power because probably they have bigger engine. Jimny has a very decent power. At what RPM actually it generates the torques? So that is on the lower side. That's a reason actually Jimny will get more torque. But still it is not comparable with many other vehicles. I understand that. So probably this is not an issue with the power, but it is a more problem with the torque, and that torque being compensated by two things actually. It is basically having a lower gear ratio. It basically have the torque converter, which basically compensates that torque. But in case of manual basically having a different gearbox than your Brezza, having the higher gear ratio and give you more torque, and that again like amplified by your transfer case to your differential, then differential actually distribute that particular torque to your two wheels. In that way basically you receive the torque actually the rear wheels, irrespective whether it is AT, whether it is MT. When you engage 4 high or 4 low, then actually Jimny sings a song, sing by Sia and Britain, I'm so powerful, right? So that is a very popular song. When you basically engage your 4 low and 4 high, so Jimny actually really a very capable vehicle in off-road. Even if you don't engage these two gears actually in off-road, being it's a rear wheel drive, it's a lightweight, it's a very good off-road. Jimny is basically designed to balance torque and power in both the cases. So you can get better torque at the lower speed, less torque in the high speed, and the more power actually the high speed. That's the reason actually Suzuki has chosen the skinny tire. So skinny tire give you less friction and the power can be utilized very decently on high speeds, and torques can be utilized in the low speed when you accelerate or in off-road conditions very well. So my friends, hopefully this actually gives you some information about power and torque of Jimny. So let's conclude the video. So my friends, in the beginning of the video, I discussed about some people actually raise the question about the power and torque and many other factors, right? So let's take those questions one by one. So is it a power basically which is the main issue of the Jimny? So I don't think so. I think Jimny is having a decent power. I'm not saying the more power is not welcome, but it is not just a power basically which actually make you feel that Jimny is not performing. So is it a torque? Yes, torque at some extent. In some situation, torque actually plays very good role, especially when you are on off-road or maybe you are basically in very initial gears, for example in your first gear, right? So in that case you feel vehicle is torquey, but when you come to the little higher gears you feel oh, it is not very torquey, not very punchy, because the lower the gear, the higher the gear ratio. The higher gear ratio means more torque. When we are on the highway where the torque is utilized, see, once your vehicle basically accelerated in some speed, for example you're in fourth gear, after that the momentum of the vehicle comes into picture. In that case the power of the vehicle actually works more, not the torque. But at that speed also, suppose there is another vehicle in front of you and you want to basically overtake that vehicle, that means in that case your vehicle should move actually faster and you actually push the throttle harder. In that case also you need some torque, and the problem is at the very higher gears there is no much torque in this particular vehicle because that is actually balanced at the low RPM at the very beginning in the lower gears actually. So that is the main thing. But apart from the torque, is there something else? Yes, there is something else. Being it's a rear wheel drive, so there is some delay actually transferring the torque and the power to the rear wheels actually. So I'm not saying that transfer is not happening properly. What I'm trying to say is in that case probably we need a more powerful engine. But Jimny is not a truly highway vehicle. The Jimny is a true off-roader, right? If anybody is buying this vehicle just for highways, so probably they just need to keep in mind that this is not a highway vehicle in terms of it is very punchy. No, it is not very punchy on highways. And also this is leather on frame chassis. It's having the boxy shape. That shape also drag a little bit on highways on the high speed. That is another reason, right? So hopefully you understand what are the challenges with those kind of vehicles and what were the challenge basically with the Suzuki, because they didn't have much engine options. Whatever it is, they actually balance it very beautifully. And Jimny is a very good vehicle. For the stability wise, it is good on highways. I will also make another video actually how to use the manual set of gears and automatic set of gears and what are the strength of those. And hopefully you enjoyed the comparison of Brezza and Jimny in this particular video. And if you really like it, so just comment on that. If you really enjoyed this video, please like this video, share this video with your nears and dears, subscribe my channel. Right now you are watching Jimny Cookbook series where we talk about everything about Jimny. We actually layers out many things about Jimny here. Hopefully you enjoyed that. So this is the time to go. I'll see you in the next video. Till then, bye bye.